Hey everyone, this is Pete, and welcome back to Atari A to Z, a series of short playthroughs of Atari 8-bit games, some which I grew up with and some which are new to me. Today is one of the former. Today we're looking at Computer War, which was a 1983 release by Thorn EMI Video and developed by Colin Hume as an adaptation of the WarGames movie from the same year, starring a very young Matthew Broderick. So like the movie, and like a lot of home computer games at the time, this game and the movie very much channels Cold War paranoia. So there's a lot of sort of paranoia over global thermonuclear war and the threat of the Russians and that sort of thing. If you've never seen the WarGames movie, the basic concept is that a supercomputer becomes convinced that missiles are on the way inbound and is preparing to arm American military bases to fire back at a non-existent threat. And in this game, it's your job to eliminate this non-existent threat from the computer's memory banks before something terrible happens, just like in the movie. So, with that in mind, let's go play Computer War.
Okay, here we are with Computer War by Thorn EMI. This is an adaptation of the movie WarGames, as I said. And so for as long as I can remember, I've always known this game as WarGames. So every time in this series when I got around to W, I thought, oh, I should really play WarGames. And then I remembered that it's actually called Computer War. There is another game called WarGames that is actually called WarGames, but I don't know much about that one, or indeed how to play it. So that is one we'll have to come back to at some point. But this is one I grew up with. I actually played this before I saw WarGames. But playing this game made me interested in seeing WarGames, so win, I guess. So, let us begin. Number of bases to be disabled is 4. Right, so your goal in this is to watch out for incoming missiles, which will appear on the map. And then you shoot them down. Or at least attempt to, using these distinctly awkward controls. And then once you've shot them all down, you get a chance to disable one of those bases. And when you disable all of the bases, then that's the end of that level. So I always really like this for its graphics. It's quite abstract in a lot of ways. But I really like the sort of terrain effects and stuff. That it's all done with sort of deliberately glitchy graphics in a way, because technically you're supposed to be searching through a computer's memory banks in this. But there's just something about the sort of the flowing colour effect on the terrain that you've got there. Right, so what we have to do here is the symbol down at the lower section. We have to find it in the top section, and in fact it's right there. So we pick that, then we pick one of the bases, and then that's done and dusted. So we then repeat the process until all of them are gone, or until we die. But it'll probably be all of them are gone this time around, because this first level's quite easy. It does then ramp up in difficulty quite significantly. Can we take them both on? That is the question. I suspect not. But yeah, as you can see, that sort of flashing colour block at the side of the screen, that shows where the missile is. And the beeping sound represents how far away it is. And you have to try and destroy it before that timer runs out. Nothing bad happens if the timer does run out. It just means you don't get any points for that missile. But similar to games like Final Legacy and so on, the longer you leave those missiles, it is tracking their position on the map at the same time as well. So if the missile arrives at its target, then the DEFCON level will go down. And if you drop off the bottom of DEFCON 1, then your game is over. I'm having some trouble finding this one. Come back. Oh, damn it. Flew right behind us. Oh, and again. I don't think... No, you can't go over the top. This is punishment for saying the first level's easy. Get it? The interesting thing that it is tracking those missiles in 3D, so... There goes the DEFCON level. So, oh no. Double DEFCON whammy. So if you can reach a point where you're going sort of alongside the missile, that makes it a lot easier to hit. Or if you can get a lucky shot like that and hit it head on. Alright, again we need to find the pattern. Now sometimes the pattern isn't the right way around, so you have to press the select button to rotate this pattern down here, and then you pick it from the top in the same way. Weird, I'm sure I only disabled 2 of them there. Maybe you don't have to get rid of all of them. I don't know. Well, we'll figure it out. This is the second level anyway. And you just repeat the process. It gets harder and faster. And you repeat until global Ooh, pain. You defeat until global thermonuclear war. It doesn't actually hurt if you do get hit by the missile like that. It just sort of causes you to black out for a moment. The tricky thing with this game is that the controls are deliberately sluggish. So it makes it quite tricky to... Oh, I know what happened. So the missiles hit 2 of the bases last time around, and then I disabled the other 2, so that was 4 in total. So, okay, that makes more sense. Right, so now we need to pick a bit more carefully, based on which ones are under the most threat then, I guess. Lovely stuff. And let's have you next. I just love the graphical effects in this. As when I first played this as a kid, I didn't really sort of understand the severity of what it was representing as. I mean, I sort of had a passing understanding of the idea of the Cold War and Russians bad guys and that sort of thing, because everyone knew that in the 80s, but I just found this to be an enjoyable and fun game. And still do, despite its sluggish controls. I just really like the way it's presented. I love that zooming in effect. I love the sound effects. I love the coloured terrain. The way that's quite a convincing effect of a missile coming towards you in 3D. Always reminded me of Final Legacy. In fact, the missile sprites in this are very similar to the missile sprites in Final Legacy as well. These games have quite a bit in common. I think on balance I prefer Final Legacy because there's just a little bit more to it, but this is cool as well. Right, so we want that one there. Let's get rid of this one that's near the edge. And then continue. So obviously if you can disable more bases rather than them being destroyed, then you'll get more points for that level. So that's what you want to try and do, as well as scoring points for the missiles. Come on. Gotcha. Yeah, lovely smooth scrolling in this as well. A real sort of showcase of the Atari's capabilities in a lot of ways. Now, you look at this running, it's super slick, super smooth. Lovely sound effects. Nice clear visuals. Good use of display list interrupts and mixed graphic modes on the screen. Hit him. Thank you. Does take a little bit of getting used to with the way you aim in this. It's not necessarily the most intuitive, but it does sort of work in 3 dimensions. So, as you see, you're almost sort of lobbing things at them, like you're firing from artillery. So that means you can hit stuff as your shots are going into the distance, and that takes a bit of adjusting to. But once you kind of nail that, you can pull off some lovely shots like that one. I think the other reason I like this game is I thought the intro sequence was really cool, the way that the music synced with the text that was appearing on screen. There were quite a few 8-bit games that did something along those lines. And in fact, there was... hold on. Yeah, in fact, there were some programmers who sort of really prided themselves on being able to do that sort of thing. There was the sort of dream team of Philip Price and Gary Gilbertson, who were behind the alternate reality series of RPGs. Besides alternate reality, they also developed, I think it was called Advanced Music Processor or something like that. And they used that in their games. And one of the things that did was, as well as having sort of really good quality 4-channel music making use of the Atari's Pokey chip, it also allowed for sort of karaoke style syncing of lyrics, on-screen lyrics, to the music. And so games like Alternate Reality started off with a song. And indeed throughout Alternate Reality as well, there were various establishments that your character could go into where there was the proprietor or an entertainer who was singing. And again, that would make use of this sort of karaoke style lyric system. And it was really cool. It was sort of obviously making the best of what the hardware was capable of at the time, because it wasn't up to, well, it was up to doing digitized speech, but not at the same time as fancy graphics and stuff as well. But it was really showing a creative way to achieve something. I don't want to say solve a problem, because it wasn't really a problem, but it was a creative way to achieve something that other people hadn't achieved. And that's a real hallmark of the 8-bit era, I think. Because I was thinking about this earlier today when I was looking up some information about some Atari 2600 games. And I was reading a thing about this game was very primitive because people didn't know how to program the 2600. And I thought, well, hang on. Surely if you design a piece of hardware, then surely you should know its capabilities. But no, that absolutely wasn't the case. In this era of home computing and games consoles and that sort of thing, the engineers designed these pieces of technology without really knowing what their maximum capabilities were. Can we get out of this? Oh, no, he's coming back. Yeah, so they designed pieces... Oh, no! They designed pieces of hardware like the Atari 8-bit home computers and the Atari 2600 without necessarily knowing the extent of what developers would be capable of getting out of that in maybe a few years' time. And I feel like that's something we don't really see all that much these days. Because game development these days is so sort of reliant on off-the-shelf engines and various middleware solutions and all that sort of thing. It makes game development more efficient, certainly. But it also kind of discourages a certain amount of that creativity that we're talking about. These creative solutions to problems that people maybe otherwise wouldn't have come up with. I don't know. I think about weird things like that. But it's one of the reasons I find software from this era so endlessly fascinating. It's because there's so many examples of games and hardware that Nope. Nope. Oh god, I can't see it. Oh no. Bugger! Ran out of time. No penalty for that, you just have to go and shoot the missiles down again before you can try again. What was I saying? Yeah, I find this era of software so endlessly fascinating just because there's so many examples of games and pieces of software and demos and all sorts of things where your immediate reaction was, I didn't know that computer could do that. Whereas these days, instead of your average home computer, a PC or a Mac or whatever, its capabilities are pretty well understood. And I don't really think there's such a thing as making a computer do something it was never designed to do anymore. Just because you can always plug in a better graphics card, you can always add more RAM, you can always add a better processor. You can always upgrade that computer so that it is supposed to do the thing that you're trying to do with it. Whereas back in these days, yes, there were expansion options, certainly. But for the most part, the configuration of these machines was fixed. And so developers were working inside some what were initially thought to be fairly clear limitations, but which over time a lot of developers decided to start taking as challenges. So you see that all over the place with things like the number of colours on screen and the fidelity of the sound effects and being able to play sampled sounds and music quality and smoothness of sprites and scrolling and all that sort of thing. And in the case of the Atari, its party trick was this display list interrupt thing where it could mix graphics modes on screen at once. And so, particularly amongst the sort of homebrew and public domain community, it often felt like a bit of a competition to see who could have the most different graphics modes on screen at once. That one, but that way up. Yes? Yes. There we go. Right, I think we can win regardless now, but let's try and get some points. Such a good explosion sound. It's like a crumbly explosion sound. I love it. It really sounds like something falling to pieces. But yeah, I mean, I got off the point there a bit, obviously, but as I often do. But I really like this game. It's simple, but it's effective. It gets the point across. And it's a nice adaptation of some of the ideas in the movie. When we got to the Atari ST era, we've seen a couple of movie license games on the Atari ST A to Z series, and a lot of movie license games from that period really suffered from trying to recreate the experience of the movie with technology that wasn't really up to the job. And so we ended up with lots of platform games that were supposed to be adaptations of key scenes from the movie and that sort of thing. And there was just a bit of a lack of imagination going on. Whereas at this point, with this game, we have something that is kind of adapting the core feel and the visual presentation of the movie WarGames without trying to recreate scenes from the movie or trying to make you feel like you're living the movie or whatever. It just happens to be making use of some of the ideas from that movie and makes an enjoyable game out of it. Hit him. Thank you. Come on. There we go. Yeah, I said earlier, when I played this game back in the day, I didn't really know much about the Cold War or that sort of thing. But this game taught me what DEFCON meant. Which is not a phrase I'd come across before, but... Oh no! Enemy missile over NORAD. All US missile bases activated. Global thermonuclear war initiated. Okay, so, yeah, what happened there was that one of the missiles hit NORAD, which is the red dot on the map. I forgot that they went for that as well, but apparently they do. Anyway, that is how that game works. That's Computer War by Thorn EMI video, an official adaptation of WarGames. I enjoyed that. I enjoyed revisiting that. Like I said, this was very much a favourite of mine back in the day, even though I wasn't particularly good at it back then, and apparently I'm still not, but there you go. Anyway, check this out if you get the chance. As always, thank you very much for watching, and I'll see you again next time.